I think aerospace engineering is a broad range of subjects, even though maybe a lot of it might seem niche as compared to some other branches. I think it can range from the dynamics of flight to spacecrafts to how propulsion systems work to how we can build structures so that they can handle the lift and other forces that a plane can take, to the fundamental aspects of fluids flowing in any sort of situation, in sort of compressible, incompressible situation. So there's a lot to do in aerospace, from very fundamental physics to maybe the aspects and the engineering of a whole aircraft.
Namaskar and welcome to another episode of the Professor Mahesh Podcast, your resource to help you make informed career decisions. As we like to say, this is your future simplified. This podcast is brought to you by IIT Madras Global, an initiative of the Office of Global Engagement at IIT Madras. IITM Global is our platform, is India's platform to take everything IIT Madras and India to the world stage. Our thinking, our teaching, our research, our startups, our entrepreneurship, our philosophy broadly. Come learn more about their efforts and how you can partner with IITM Global through the links in the description below. For the last 7 months of this podcast, I've seen a wave of love come at us. I really want to thank all of the audience that have taken to this podcast like a fish to water. I want to thank all of the parents and students that have taken to the information that we've made an effort to bring to you. Today's episode is a little different. I have one of you in front of me, one of you from a few years ago, but today students at IIT Madras. I have Ashwin and Purna, both aerospace engineering students at IIT Madras. When they were young 17-year-olds making their mind, they had options like many of you would, and they chose to go into a discipline that they found their passion in. So 3 years later, or almost 3 full years later, in their final year, we're going to ask them if they made the right decision, what went right, what could have gone even more right, and let's see their thought process. And I hope this thought process comes back to help some of you. Thank you for making the time, Ashwin, and thank you, Purna, for choosing to be part of this conversation. So let's start off with you, Purna. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up, what your childhood was like, schooling, some interest there.
I grew up in Mumbai. Both my parents are PhDs, so both of them followed their own passions and they went against the norms. I'm not the first one in my family. I would like to put that disclaimer out. I had my schooling in Kendra Vidyalaya all 12 years. They were very particular that I should have a CBSE schooling and I should have a good foundation, a knowledge of subjects. So I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed my school, and growing up in school I started enjoying science a lot, and it was a lot of physics, a lot of maths, but at the same time I really enjoyed biology as well. So I had this interest in genetics, interest in learning about the genes in the body, how they evolve, how they cause a lot of different diseases, how they can be manipulated to make a better future. So going into 11th and 12th, I decided to take up all my interests. So I did physics, chemistry, maths, but with that I also did a subject called as biotechnology. And I was interested in almost all of them. So I was interested in biotechnology as well, and I was interested in physics. And the physical aspect of physics really interested me, how we could explain the world, how we could explain fluids and solids and all of that. And I think at the base of all of this, I knew I wanted to do something mathematical. So by the end of my schooling, I had made up my mind that I either wanted to apply maths to physics or apply maths to biology. So that was my schooling, and that was my understanding of subjects and my interests.
Wonderful. Ashwin.
So I was brought up in Chennai. I did all my schooling here. And I only started my JE coaching in 11th and 12th, but so till then it was very relaxed and I really enjoyed my schooling days. So my school actually encouraged a lot of extracurricular activities. So I was part of the school choir, so I used to play the keyboard. I also took violin classes. So I kind of did a lot of things. And apart from that, I was also part of the astronomy club in school. So we used to do a lot of fun experiments, and I think one time we even measured the circumference of the Earth just by using some angles from the sun. So that was something really fun that I did. So yeah, that's about me.
Wonderful. So, in both of your cases, I mean, the schooling was obviously a fun time. What was JE prep like?
Right. So I started my JE prep primarily in 11th and 12th. And at that time, it was quite intensive. I had to study a lot of subjects, do a lot of reading. But at the same time, I was a little lucky because it started in 2020, and that was the time COVID had hit. So all my schools were online, classes were remote. So that kind of saved me a lot of time because I didn't have to travel all the way to school. So I had a bit more advantage than the other batches. But at the same time, I wouldn't say I was too focused on my preparation alone. I used to do a lot of things. So I used to study, during class and after class. But at the same time, I used to still, play music, play sports. I also used to play video games with my friends at those days. So I think I had a more balanced preparation at that time, and I think that helped me in the long run because I was able to stay cool and collected during those 2 years. I did not get stressed that much.
And your JE prep was mostly in Mumbai?
Yeah, so I think my parents were not very for the coaching industries, but I had a lot of friends who were going in that direction. So I wanted to try it out. So as I was in 10th standard, I decided I will try it out just to see if it's something that is for me. I did not particularly like it, so I decided to stay in my school, which is Kendra Vidyalaya, for 11th and 12th as well, and do some sort of correspondence program. So and again, as Ashwin said, because there was COVID and we were at home, it helped a lot because we saved a lot of time in transportation. But at the same time, I think I wasn't always studying. I think I enjoyed my school classes a lot as well. I also did a lot of extracurriculars.
Sure.
I've danced all my life, so I used to dance, and I had music classes. So I was, it was not a very hectic part of my life, I would say. I think it was a big chunk of my day studying, but not. It wasn't as rigorous as most people tell it is.
So, what was yours? I mean, when you start to study for an exam like that, we all study with some aspiration. Okay, everybody is asking, the best way to ask this is in Hindi, bade ho ke kya banoge? Right? So, as a child, when somebody asked you, what was your answer to the question like that?
So initially I said I wanted to be a pilot.
Sure. I mean, a lot of us start out there.
Right. So it started out there for me. And I think, so I think once we grew, I grew a bit older, it became more of you should probably do an undergrad and then we can think about it,
Sure.
Which was fair. But then I realized as I went to 11th and I went to 12th that I really like applying physics. I really like applying maths, and maybe I wouldn't get to do that in a field like that. But then I had this fascination for planes. I had this fascination for, I guess, the aviation industry in general, and I think that drew me towards aerospace engineering in some regard.
Is your story something similar?
I would say it is slightly different. So I've always been very interested in astronomy and space technology as a whole for a very long time. So I was part of the astronomy club in my school, and I live in Chennai, so that's quite close to Sriharikota. So I got to see a lot of rocket launches just from my house itself. And I think the bigger inspiration was during my childhood, I actually visited the NASA Space Center in Houston. So I got to see a lot of the technology that they had built, and some of them were decades old. So that was really inspiring. I also had a telescope at home. So all these things kind of put me on the track to go ahead with aerospace engineering, because that's something that I've been very fascinated with since my childhood. And even at school, I think that was kind of the goal that I had set for myself.
So, come JE time or post JE results, I'm sure all of us are faced with decisions, right? JE sort of precipitates a certain rank order of your thinking, right? You have no choice but to rank your own thinking. How did you go about that phase of your life? What were your parents' thoughts like? What was your thoughts? What are all the factors that you brought into the game to sort of help make that decision?
Right. So, I mean, I did my JE really well and I did have a lot of options. It might seem like I had a lot of options, but I think personally, I've always been very interested in aerospace engineering from my childhood. And, my parents were also very supportive of that choice. They didn't want me to, ignore my passions and go ahead with a very conventional choice. So I would say that, and at that time, actually, my sister was also studying biotechnology at IIT Madras. So, and even though she was studying biotech, she was kind of interested in public policy, consulting, and so on. So she pivoted towards that direction. And my parents were really receptive of that. So I would say that, um, you know, while it might seem like I had a lot of choices, I think, aerospace engineering was the only choice I had. So,
At least mentally, you
yeah.
were committed to aerospace engineering. And you, Purna?
I think I wasn't entirely sure. So, come end of JE, or while I was writing JE and a bunch of different exams, I had two options broadly in my head. I wanted to do aerospace engineering and I wanted to do something on the lines of biostatistics. And I kept oscillating between the two. And I thought I will give an attempt to both. And both were I felt like I would enjoy working in that field in the future. So I did write JE and I did get a good enough rank to get in aerospace engineering. And I think out of all the other possibilities, I didn't consider them. So I really liked aerospace engineering, and I did write. I did try to get into ISI to do biostatistics as well. So I wanted to do it from the statistics side. I unfortunately didn't get that. So I think life brought me this way.
Good. But, going back to your original thinking of applying math to engineering or physics problems, that could have been the way of life in many different engineering
I
disciplines.
agree, but I feel like having done aerospace, the kind of physics that I like and the amount of math that it requires, I think it all worked out very well. So I think there's a lot. Physics is a very broad subject. It ranges through a lot of things, but I think the kind of physics that I like, the kind of interest I had in fluids, and the amount of math that it requires to do this.
Sure.
And I think coupled with the interest that I had in airplanes in general, I think I've really enjoyed whatever I've done so far in aerospace.
So this, I'm sure I hear both of you had supportive parents in your decision-making process. But did you have members of your extended family that were sort of warning you that you were going in the wrong direction? Maybe, the future is in electrical engineering in some other spaces?
For me, I would say no. My family members, my relatives, they were all really supportive of my choice. My teachers also were actually quite happy that I decided to go a bit unconventional. So I would say there was no one opposing me in any sense, warning me about it. They were all really happy that I was doing it. So.
Okay. But what could a student do? I'm sure in a more general situation, let's generalize beyond the two of you. I'm sure you've seen hundreds of peers of yours, right? What could a student do, to sort of be more aligned to what they want to do, to decide along the lines of where they want to be?
I think deep down we know, like, we have some interests in life, and I think on a broad perspective we should listen to our heart. And I think if we have a couple of interests, it's a good idea to talk to some people who have either done an undergrad or are working in that field to get an idea. But I think at the end of the day, I think following your heart is it's a better place to be. And all IITs at the end of the day have some flexibility. So even if you do not entirely like what you're doing, there is an opportunity to try to find what you like even after coming in. So I think a lot of people have a mindset that they need to get into the right field, or if they think that they like something, they need to enjoy it, and they're very scared to maybe come in and find out that it's not what they thought it was. But we could come in here and also get to know other fields, get to explore a lot of other opportunities.
Sure. Like you could have pursued your biostatistics
Yes.
passion,
Right.
being an aerospace engineer, right? So, but are there such resources available if somebody wants to go talk to people? I mean, are there? I mean, what could one do?
Right. So if you're in an IIT, there's obviously a very large alumni network. And secondly, once you're in an IIT, it doesn't really matter because being an IITian, you'll still be successful regardless of what branch you're in. And I think the alumni network can also help a lot regarding that. But other than that, like if you're still in your school and you're deciding, I think the first thing that you should think about is, can you see yourself working in this field just for your passion, putting money aside? So I think that's something that you might have to think about a lot because, there are other options which pay a lot. But, if you follow your passion, you might enjoy working in it, but, you won't get all the monetary benefits that, some other options might get. So I think that's something that you have to think about. And you can obviously talk to a lot of people who have done these kind of choices, taken these choices. I think I'm not the only one who's, gotten such a rank and, taken aerospace engineering. There's obviously a lot more people who have done that. So I think LinkedIn is a really good place to look at. There's people with very unconventional paths, and you can kind of talk to them as well.
So, but that those conversations have to happen before you get to the JEE decision phase. There's no time after that, right? So there's some planning required to sort of, have some informed conversations before you get to the actual decision point. Okay, let's fast forward, 3 full years. You took your decision to come into aerospace engineering. Tell us what is aerospace engineering from your vantage point? What have you learned that excites you?
I think aerospace engineering is a broad range of subjects, even though maybe a lot of it might seem niche as compared to some other branches. I think it can range from the dynamics of flight to spacecrafts to how propulsion systems work to how we can build structures so that they can handle the lift and other forces that a plane can take, to the fundamental aspects of fluids flowing in any sort of situation, in sort of compressible, incompressible situation. So there's a lot to do in aerospace, from very fundamental physics to maybe the aspects and the engineering of a whole aircraft.
And do you feel like your decision has been completely validated, or are there parts that you feel that you needed to alleviate using the electives option in some way?
Well, I think it's been around 3 years since I've taken this, course, and I don't regret it one bit. I really enjoy what I'm doing. I wake up, I go to classes, and I actually like what is being taught. So I would say there's no regrets in any aspect. But coming to what I'm actually learning, I would say the department has a wide variety of courses, and anything and everything that you want to learn, it's there in some sort of elective, even with the department, inside the department and outside. And I think IIT, there's a lot of flexibility to take electives even outside your department. So once you're within an IIT, you have the flexibility to do whatever you want, and there's always an option in IIT.
So tell me one thing. One of the main sort of driving factors in this whole decision-making process, I said this, is I hear these two words, scope and package, right? Did that not factor into your decision early, or what are your thoughts on that now?
Right. So yeah, that was a part of my decision-making process, but I think in the long run, I believe that working in a field of interest would be better than chasing something that I wouldn't really enjoy working in the long run. There is obviously a lot of other options which pay really well, but I just can't see myself working in that every day. And that's the kind of mentality that I had. So that's why I decided to go ahead with aerospace engineering despite other options.
But the packages are still quite good here too, right? Did you get a chance? What's been your understanding of your seeing your seniors in aerospace engineering?
I think it's encouraged to study further. I feel like we need a little more knowledge. I have not heard of a lot of people opting for aerospace industry jobs in big aerospace companies after masters.
This is a long game. Aerospace is a little bit of a long game, right? I mean, you cannot become an aircraft designer at the age of 21 having done 4 years of aerospace. In fact, I'll say no engineering discipline is at that point of naivete today. No, you cannot be entrusted with designing a car if you are a BTech mechanical engineering. No chance of that, right? So there is a training, a sort of on-job training that has to happen. My question though is, was like salaries, pay, compensation somewhere in the discussion at all?
I think the way I was raised, I was only asked to think about what I'm interested in, and nothing else was in the question. And I'm very grateful for that. I understand that a lot of people don't have that luxury. But yeah, it never came into the discussion.
So, for a moment, I'm going to put you in an uncomfortable position. Put yourself in that person's shoes, right? And in a genuine way, everybody has caring parents. That care comes at them in different ways and forms. So, help us parse that mindset, Purna.
So at least I can think from that perspective, because once I came into IIT Madras, I worked for an NGO that helped underprivileged students prepare for JEE and then obviously sit for JOSA and get into IITs. And I've interacted with a bunch of such students, and I realized then that maybe not everyone has a privilege like me to not think about the package, to not think about the placements. And my best case scenario advice for them was to think about the package, go into an IIT, and also explore your interests, to also do other electives, explore other interests. Some of them, maybe you don't want to do engineering. I feel like a lot of people are there who write JEE without the interest of even doing engineering. There are a lot of other options that we can explore while coming in, but then also have a pathway to secure a quick, good future.
So, are you also clear that you don't want to stop with a BTech?
Yes, so I think in the last 3 years, the primary thing that I've enjoyed doing is research. So I've had a lot of research opportunities within IIT and also outside. In IIT, I got to work with a couple of professors in propulsion engineering. And I think that's something that I found really exciting as well. And I got other opportunities to go outside IIT, IASC, EPFL, and other places. So I think I've come to realize that I actually enjoy doing a lot of research in this field particularly. So I would say that, for me at least, I want to pursue my higher studies and kind of become an expert in the field and get deep into research.
So, in your circle of classmates spanning beyond aerospace engineering, how far do you see this thinking that, BTech is not enough anymore? Do you see that as a settled decision, or are there people that are just happy being BTech?
So I think there's mainly like 3 kinds of people. So one set is the people who are going to do their higher studies, masters or PhD, and I would say that fraction is kind of low as of now. So there's still most of the people still end up doing their BTech and then graduating. But the second and more growing part that I'm seeing now is a lot of people are getting into startups, and I think that's quite interesting because there's a lot of aerospace startups that are coming out nowadays, and people tend to just graduate and join these startups. So I find that quite exciting and interesting nowadays. That's coming up a lot.
Does that not excite you, Purna?
I think, as Ashwin said, I also enjoy research a lot. I think I want to learn more. I want to contribute to the research community. And I don't know, I think the startups are very exciting, but then I think what excites me most, what I've understood after 3 years of my undergrad, is that I want to study the fundamental aspects of fluids, the fundamental aspects of the aerodynamics that takes place for airplanes to fly, and I think that I would enjoy a research-oriented career in that direction.
The inherent benefit with research-oriented careers, as you have already realized, is the excitement of new discovery, is the main purpose of that career, right? Now, that discovery has to also find some application, right? That's the most rewarding of all discoveries. In your judgment of having seen what you have seen, in your life thus far, how do you think a student can sort of parse that aspect? Because at the end of the day, as young men and women, we want to do something, or we want to be of use. That's just sort of a nice romantic view of the world, right? How do you parse that into your pursuit of research?
I think the primary goal is to enjoy what we do. and at least for me, my way of thinking is that the primary goal is to enjoy what you do, to learn something new, and try your best to implement it or build something upon that, to make something else new. And I think a secondary consequence of that is if something is benefiting for the world out of that, that would be a good achievement. But I think it builds on just wanting to understand certain systems. It builds on just understanding physics and learning new things and trying to become more knowledgeable.
Sure. That's actually a good way to parse sort of the hierarchy of, usefulness versus just new knowledge discovery. Good thoughts there, Purna. You've seen your other classmates, right, in various streams of discipline. How easy is it, in your opinion, today, to start in one discipline and eventually pivot around to a completely different discipline? Do you see your classmates sort of being very open about it, or are there systemic hurdles along the way that you still feel are there?
So I think in IITs that hurdle is not there. So it's very flexible. Regardless of what branch you take, you can obviously do a lot of electives in a field that you really enjoy, and there's a sense of discovery. So you get to take a lot of new electives that come up each time, and you can explore different fields. So you kind of have that freedom in IITs that I would say you don't have anywhere else. So you can take a lot of classes. Even in your core curriculum, there's still space to, even your core curriculum, there's space to, take electives in other topics and kind of explore. Even in aerospace engineering, it is quite a wide field. So there's controls, there's computational, there's experimental. So there's, courses that do each one of these, and you kind of get to explore each field and see what you like, what you don't like. And, if you're interested in a particular field, there's more electives that you can take to continue learning that. So I would say that flexibility is there, and you can easily pivot to whatever interest that you're ultimately want to set as your goal.
So you could start with a degree in aerospace and go into like physics or any other discipline. Do you see students doing that?
I think, yeah, I've seen quite a few students use. So IIT has this interdisciplinary curriculum. So I think quite a few people utilize that to go move forward or pivot in another direction from what they initially began with, and it's I think growing in number now.
So now go back to your high school classmates, right? So let's go back. I'm sure you're all in touch with each other. Tell us a little bit about their career trajectories. What has been in 4 years? What are their thoughts like? When you sort of bounce thoughts on a WhatsApp group or discuss, like, what are they thinking outside IITs?
I think my friends, there are a lot of different paths that they have gone and through. Few of them have gone to other colleges, but they've done really well and they're all getting jobs and they're satisfied with that.
Very good.
Few of them joined ISers and they're very interested. They were interested in research even before they came into IIT. So
Sure.
they're doing fundamental science research and they're also enjoying that a lot and they want to continue doing that. So I think even when I was graduating high school, a lot of people had a lot of different passions, and a lot of my friends did follow through to those passions.
Sure.
But I think a few of them also went through the normal general path that we see nowadays. And on an average, I think everyone is happy. But I think I should speak to them once they start their job to understand that aspect of life. I'm not sure.
Sure. And I think, like the one word that came out sort of unanimously from both of you is follow your passion, right? And what are the downsides to doing so? I want to be honest, right? All of us want to have an honest discussion. What are the possible downsides to doing something like that?
Well, if I should talk about aerospace engineering, I would say there's two options if you want to get into a job. So one is the public industry, ISRO, DRDO. The obvious downside of that is that you don't get some of the perks that you can get in maybe a private corporate job. That would be one downside. But I think at the same time, there's a lot of startups that are coming up, and they're doing a lot of cutting edge work actually, and I think that's a very interesting field to get into. But coming to downsides, even in startups, you still don't
Sure.
get as much as perks as you would in say a MNC or a high-paying computer science job. So I think the primary downside in any of these non-conventional fields would be the amount of money you get paid. But at the same time, you get to follow your passion. So it's a balance between the both.
But I think I've had other guests convince me that there is a little bit of a hockey stick effect that happens later on in your career, especially if you are in the private sector. You spend, let's say, doing 5-10 years doing aircraft fuselage design. Now, there aren't many people with that like niche expertise, and then you sort of pick up your value in the industry broadly. Notwithstanding startups, which is another easy way to make value out of your skills in some way. Let's close this. You've both, I'll say, swam a bit upstream. I mean, in terms of conventional wisdom of where you should have ended up in some way, right? So tell us a little bit about your thought process and your closing thoughts for how someone should approach their life and career decisions.
I think first and foremost is follow your heart. So I think if your heart tells you that I want to do something, I think you should give it a lot more weightage than I see many people doing nowadays. But at the same time, I feel like you should look around. You could try to connect to a few people who are in that field, or try to, I think IIT Madras releases certain videos every year as JOSA happens of every stream. Try to go through a little bit, do your own research, validate your passion maybe a little bit, but at the same time don't fear following your heart. And even if you are wrong, which is a very it's a possibility, I think there's a lot of flexibility that we have, and you can even come in and try to figure out something else that would interest you. So I think listening to our heart would make us happier in general, and I think it's a decision that you take for yourself, and I think it's a decision that we have to take throughout our lives. It's not just to come into college.
Sure.
It's what you do after college and what you do after that, and which job you stay in and which job you switch to. So I think it's a good practice to start listening to your heart, following your passion, but also make sure you do some research on your end. Try to connect with people, or look at the net. Look at when I was in 12th, I went to IITM's website and I downloaded the curriculum, and then I put every course into Google, and I got some MIT slides, and I just swarmed through it, and I didn't understand much, but it seemed to interest me, and now that I understand it, it still interests me. So I think there is...
Before I let you close, Ashwin, one of the sad states is that people don't even have a passion. If you listen to your heart, it's silent. What would they do? What could they do?
In that case, I would say, you should still try to get into an IIT, because as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of flexibility and opportunities in IITs where you can get to explore what you want to do. So I would say, regardless of what branch you're in an IIT, you can explore other fields, see what you want to do. I think those 4 years at an IIT is a really good time to kind of develop your passion in a particular field. So it doesn't matter what branch you're in, as long as you're inside an IIT, I think you'll discover your passion here if you don't have one already.
Okay, wonderful. Your closing thoughts on...
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, I think the first thing you should really think about is, can you see yourself working in a field of your passion without the monetary benefits? I think that's the biggest question that we have to answer for ourselves. And you should also talk to a lot of people who have already done these kinds of things and get their ideas. But you shouldn't take them by as it is. You should, obviously put in your thoughts as well. So I would say, you have to make a balanced decision between what others say and what you feel you want to do. But at the same time, once you're in an IIT, you'll obviously be successful regardless of what branch you're in. So I think that aspect is covered. So I think you should, take risks, enjoy what you're doing.
Fantastic. This has been a very different and a very fun conversation. Thank you very much, Ashwin and Purna, for choosing to come be part of this honest take on how you guys thought about your own careers. Thank you again. This has been another episode of the Professor Mahesh Podcast, a very unique one, a first for me. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as we did. Until we meet again, be well, do good, and keep in touch. Goodbye.